Welcome back to the Nullified Take, where I've got the TNT takes for you on Australian Survivor Blood vs. Water, episode 19. Now, before I get into the top 5 talking points for this episode, I would once again just like to thank everybody for subscribing to this channel. So far, we do have 418 subs to the channel at the point of recording this video, so we're getting very close to the 500 sub goal. And when we get there, we are going to make an Australian Survivor buff available for one of our listeners that comments on these videos and likes the videos. So all you have to do is like, comment, and subscribe, and you will go into that live draw of potentially winning an Australian Survivor buff. So what are you waiting for? It's absolutely free and you might get a buff out of it. So hit the subscribe button right now. Okay, so let's get into the top 5 talking points for me on this episode. So talking point number 1 is that the fallout happens, or the aftermath of having the 3 players that came back from purgatory back at camp. You could see different people within the camp, which were in the top 6, very unhappy about the fact that they have now had to go back to voting these 3 players out, and basically it is like they're starting from scratch and it is the beginning of the merge again. So a big fear for a lot of us viewers have been that if we see these 3 players come back, will we just see all 3 of them leave the game again, which would basically mean we get a wasted week of Australian Survivor, which would be very boring and predictable to watch. And in this episode, you can see that that's kind of what they're trying to stick true to. They want to keep that tight 6 still very strong. Geordie obviously is trying to get the Misfit Alliance together, and we continue to see the storyline of the Joker versus the Ice Queen, or the Thief, whatever you want to call her this week, or whatever Channel 10 decides to call Sam this week. That storyline is going to continue to dominate our screens throughout this episode, and Geordie is doing a really, really big job, but he's finding the same difficulties like he found prior to leaving the game, that nobody believes him that Sam has got that idol. They think that they only have one idol at this point. By the way, hats off to Mark. Even if they know he's got an idol, like most players, if people know that they've got an idol, they would get booted out of the game. But clearly Mark has got a really good social game where people want to work with him. Even though he's got an idol, they think that that is not enough of a reason to vote him out, and that says something about the social game that he has, even with the fact that Sam is being perceived as someone that according to the edit is quite paranoid and someone that they may not want to work with. I feel like Mark's very strong social game is keeping them in the game at this point. All right, point number 2. KJ finds an advantage at the auction.
220, and it is yours.
It's like a clue, knowledge, idol.
Get it, girl.
Get it. Oh,
Lovely.
A cup of tea, milk and sugar.
How civil.
Cup of tea makes everything better. Try not to spill it.
The auction was very interesting to watch. There's clearly a bunch of fans of the show at the auction. You could see people like Geordie, Sam, hold off from actually bidding too early on one of the items and trying to get this advantage. I also noticed that KJ from the start had a plan, and that she didn't go in voting for any of the auction items, so she also had a plan coming into this, even though she probably didn't get to articulate that to the camera. We see here that Sam tells Josh and Mark, listen, we need to make sure our alliance gets this advantage. There's going to be something available. So Mark takes one for the team, puts all of his money on a secret item, ends up getting, I believe, steak, fries, and also a beer. And we also see that Geordie goes in full on that as well, and they have to draw rocks. So he ends up losing that rock draw and is out of the auction. Sam then takes the second punt at it, and she ends up with a Vegemite sandwich, which would have been such a blow. I know Aussies love their Vegemite sandwiches, but this would not have been what she wanted for $500 of all things. And we are going to see then that KJ ultimately is going to be the biggest winner out of this auction. She's going to get a cup of tea, but underneath one of the cups, there is an advantage, a clue to an advantage, and she very strategically hides that before anybody else can seize it at camp. Nobody knows anything, and I was very impressed by KJ's gameplay this episode. She stays quiet about it. She doesn't tell anybody. She doesn't even tell her alliance about it.
Power back in my hands.
Get some food, Cage?
Yeah. I've decided to keep it to myself.
I think it's the safest thing to do not to tell anybody about this, because if you play it the way that KJ played it in this specific episode and you are going to stay at tribal council, you're still at risk of going home. So people could plan around that if they know about the advantage. So you want the element of surprise in the middle of tribal council, but more on that a little bit later when we get into takeaway number 5. So takeaway number 3, Joss finds out that he is going to be a dad. Shay had the option of choosing to keep a letter for herself that she won at the auction, but she decided to give everybody a letter from home, which I think is the right move. Some people may say she's already been voted out once. Be spiteful, keep the letter for yourself. Who cares? These people have already turned their back on you, but she's still in the game and she has the maturity and also strategically knows that she needs to share this love at the end of the day, because if she just gets one person to turn their vote, even though it's pretty obvious she's pandering for votes here, she could potentially stay a little bit longer in the game. You've got to do everything in your power to stay in the game for a bit longer. And through this generous act of Shay's, Joss finds out that he's going to be a dad, and he's been trying for a very long time to become a dad, which gets him very emotional. It's definitely an emotional scene to see on TV. You can see how much it means to the guy, and it motivates him to put it into another gear at the immunity challenge, and he actually wins his first immunity of the season, proving that he's not just a brawn but also a brain, absolutely demolishing the competition throughout the obstacle course part of this, and then winning out at the puzzle, putting 6 pillars together, building a structure 3 levels higher, I believe it was, and taking home his first immunity win. So great job to Josh for doing that. I've been very impressed with Josh. I still think he is probably one of the most dominant players this season, and he's been severely underrated at it. Going into takeaway number 4, Mark and Sam has a discussion on the beach or at camp before they go to tribal council about if they should take the idols with them to tribal council. Sam has a very great observation here in the episode, and she has been spot on with a lot of her reads. You can say she's paranoid, you can say she's overplaying or whatever you want. She does understand this game, and she does understand human nature quite well, because she says that if they do play this idol, the cat's out of the bag, that means that the target on her would be even bigger. So it's almost not an incentive for her to play that idol at this point and to keep it a secret as long as she can, because there's no going back after that. And with 9 people still in the game, 8 after this vote, there's still a lot of opportunity for people to turn their back on Sam because of it. So Mark wants to take the idols to tribal council, but Sam tells him, let's keep it at camp. That way, if one of us gets blindsided tonight, the other person is coming back to 2 idols. So this is clearly showing that Mark and Sam, like I've been saying at least all season, they're playing this game as one unit. If Mark wins, Sam wins. If Sam wins, Mark wins. This is a no-brainer. So they want to get that person in the best possible position to win this game, and they feel like playing the idol this early on is not the right move. That might change from vote to vote, so next episode, when they've got 8 people in there, they might think that it's more worth it to have both of them in this game. But interesting strategy. Obviously, as we go into takeaway number 5 here at tribal council, that becomes a little bit of a problem for Sam, because one thing she did not anticipate, and also Mark didn't anticipate this, is that there is an advantage in play. Obviously, KJ goes and she blindsides everybody with this, even the people that are working closely with her, and she sends 3 people back to camp, and those people include Mark. Smart move, because Mark and Sam will never go against each other. They're a very tight duo. And then also very smartly, she sends Josh home, because Josh is not an option to get voted against, so why keep him in the game? And you want to break up that other duo, so keeping Jordan there as a potential option, and then taking Chrissy away as well, who I think is very tight with Jordan and Josh and would have never gone against them. They leave the only other person outside of that tight 6 there, and Juicy Dave, who's probably not feeling as secure, and someone that they ultimately can work on. And he does turn his vote around here, which is smart from a Juicy Dave's perspective in my mind, because why would he want to draw rocks for one of those people? So ultimately here, in the final 6 or the top 6 alliance, you only have Sam, Jordan, and Juicy Dave there. And KJ very much points out that if I didn't make this move, I believe Juicy Dave could have gone home at that final 6. He's the low man on the totem pole. So impressed by KJ's play here. Such a smart move. The way that she orchestrated this and the people that she removed. She clearly has a great understanding of the social dynamics within this tribe, and she has a strategic mind. So it is a shame we haven't seen more of that in the confessionals this season. Shame on you, editing team, once again for not showing us a little bit more of her train of thought. But nonetheless, she makes a great move here. Sam scramble. She asks Mark, do you have the idol that you bring with you? Because he did want to bring it in the beginning, so she probably hoped that he didn't listen to her, but he says, no, I don't have it with me. But he fakes out giving her a package or something, and Sam can use that to create some paranoia within the players. Everybody has got this perception of Sam being a paranoid player, so by her saying, I've got an idol, it's Mark's idol, Geordie trying to, again, twist her words a little bit there, but it's not working. That's just creating enough doubt in people's minds to not vote for Sam, and they know that Jordan is the obvious vote here, because if Sam is really as paranoid as they think she is, she's going to play the idol if she's got it on hand, but she ultimately doesn't play it. Great bluff by her, and Jordan goes home in the spot. He is the sacrificial lamb. Seems like a nice guy. I wish I knew more about what his strategy in the game was. We didn't see much of it throughout the season. It was a little bit of a shock for me because in my mind, I was thinking Sam was drawing debt here, and she was probably going to be voted home, and Mark was going to be back at camp with the two idols, like it kind of foreshadowed this episode. So overall, very happy with the episode. Great episode to watch. What did you guys think of it? Let me know what was your top 5 takeaways. Do you think that Sam and Mark is going to get back into the top 6, or do you think we see one of them getting voted out before this top 6 happens? And will Juicy Dave finally turn his back finally on this top 6 or top 5 alliance now and go with the Misfits in the spot? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below, and as always, catch you next time.